Hey friends, Mindy here. I have a little process video for you today. I am going to be creating a journal in this little book. I got this cover in part of my kits from a house of books a while back, and it's just been sitting there, and it's actually in pretty good condition. And so I think I want to make a journal out of it. I'm going to have to reinforce this spine here just a little bit, but it's not cracked or torn or anything. So I think I can add some gaffer tape or something in here and get that to work. And then I can sew in my little signatures. I'm just going to make a little Christmas journal. I'm not actually going to do anything to the front of this cover. It's just an old little encyclopedia. It says 1958 on the outside of it. And so I just want to create a little Christmas themed journal. I don't do a whole lot of Christmas type crafting generally. I haven't for quite a while, but I just feel like doing that this year, so I'm going to. So what I'm going to be using along with some of my vintage papers from a house of books, like some music papers and those kinds of things. I have a little bit of the Tim Holtz Christmas collection from this year. I don't have a ton of it. I just bought a couple of things. I bought the Christmas ephemera. I bought these layered frames, which is going to be fun. I think I actually may try to make something similar as well. And then I have also purchased the Ideology backdrops. So I always love using the backdrops. I just love the paper and I love the size and everything. And then I think I'm going to try to incorporate, this is an old paper pack from Hobby Lobby that I have had just forever, but I think that there are a few things in here that I can use to just create some pages. I think these would make really sweet little journaling cards. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to put you on fast forward. I don't know if this is going to end up being a 1 or 2 part video, but I'm going to get started with trying to reinforce the cover and at least get through maybe the making of the signatures and maybe making some ephemera. We'll see how far I can get today, but this is what I'm working on. I'm going to put you on fast forward and get started. Okay, so the first thing that I need to do is address these kind of raw edges here on the spine. So I'm just kind of folding it back on itself. I'm trimming out the little book spine. Sorry if you can hear my son in the background. Anyway, I'm just going to use my Tim Holtz scissors here and just get rid of that kind of extra thick raw edge where it's got the fabric and everything, because I just don't want to add the extra bulk when I add my tape over the top of it. So I'm just being very careful not to actually nick the cover itself. So and I have this gaffer tape. This is black, but I need one that's a little bit whiter. So I have this white version. Gaffer tape is just like a fabric tape. You can buy bookbinders tape. It's the same thing, but gaffer tape is just a little bit cheaper. So I have had this roll for quite some time, and I use it once in a while. It's just a really flexible, nice and sticky tape that you can work with. And so I'm going to apply this here as close to straight as I can. You'll see I end up getting it a little bit crooked, but it's not going to matter because we're going to cover that up. I just want to make sure that I have my spine reinforced, and because this had like a curved spine to it in the beginning, I'm having to work with that as well. So I need to be able to have something that's kind of flexible, that's going to kind of go down into that gutter part of that. And then I cut my gaffer tape just a little bit longer than I need. I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and just trim this straight with kind of the cover papers in there, because that's what I'm going to line up my inner pages up when I cover those. So I just am trying to, you can see this cuts really well. You can even tear it, in fact, but I just use my X-Acto knife and my ruler just to try to line it up as much as I possibly can. You can see here a little bit more that it's actually crooked, but it's fine. I'm using my bone folder just to really make sure to get down in that curvature of the spine piece. And then I am going to pull out a couple of these Tim Holtz. I'm going to go through the backdrops and decide which one. They end up being almost a perfect fit for this journal, which was awesome. This journal measures roughly 4 by 6, the cover finished. And so I really loved this plaid. So I'm just going to mark on here. I'm going to cut my couple pieces, and I am covering that each of them on the back side with double-sided adhesive. This is the scrapbook.com version. You could certainly use score tape. You could even use liquid adhesive if you like to. I just really like that this is really strong adhesive. I know that it's not going to warp my paper, and it's going to stick well. So a lot of times for the inside of a journal cover, this is what I will use. I'm burnishing it down really well just to make sure that the adhesive is going to stay stuck. And I'm going to start with just pulling back the release paper just a little bit. If you've seen any of my videos before and I am doing this, this is what I like to do. It just, because this tape is so sticky, if you drop it, it's going to be stuck. So I like to use the little release papers as kind of little wings, and it allows me to kind of get everything into position where I want it, and then I can actually then apply pressure to the part that's exposed, and then you can just simply pull out the release papers the rest of the way. It's just a little trick to get it lined up without feeling like you have to have the whole adhesive exposed at the time. So I did that for both the front and the back covers, and that is going to basically be my cover. I'm not going to do anything else to it. I'm not adding anything to the outside. I really want to keep the integrity of this vintage book. So I pulled a couple of the other backdrops and I want to use them in my journal. So I am measuring this because obviously these backdrops are going to be too long, but I don't want to just trim off the edges. So I want to actually take advantage of the fact that they're a little bit too big, and I'm going to use that to create a pocket essentially, or a little fold out or flip out or whatever. So I believe I scored it at like 3.5. It doesn't, you know, this would obviously just be based on the size of the journal that you're creating, but I think it was like 3.5, and then 7.5 is where, or 3.25 and 7.5. And then you can see here, I have that one side that will sort of fold in, and it will still fit well within my journal. And then it will just add a little, I could either glue it down and create a pocket, whatever. And then some of these I will trim down. I'm going to actually use my decal edge trimmer here from Holtz. And so I will trim off that excess part, and then, but I will save that and it will become a pocket on a different page in my journal. So nothing gets left behind in this particular journal. And I want to make sure to utilize as much of these things as I possibly can. So you see me here just kind of going through and pulling out those ones. And I wanted to just say, I think I've said this before, but if you ever find yourself having scored something incorrectly, and you know how it will kind of leave a mark, if you go back over with a bone folder on a hard surface the opposite direction of the way that you scored, you can kind of iron it out basically, and it just makes it a little bit less obvious, and then you're less likely to fold in the wrong area too. So that's just a tip whenever you, like I just did, had scored in the wrong area. So I decided that I'm probably going to be able to get about 3 signatures here in my little journal, and so I'm pulling out a variety of different papers. I have the Holtz backdrops, I have some coffee dyed paper, I have some vintage music paper, and then I have a piece of Braille paper that I got from my sweet friend Brenda. And I just love the texture that it brings to journals, so I try to add it whenever I can. And so basically what you see me here doing, I'm just adding some of the pages. I'm going to keep kind of a consistent amount of each of these pages in each signature. So they're not going to be identical, but they will have similar things. So each page, each signature is going to have a piece of Braille paper, etc. So here are my 3 signatures. I have those little flap parts kind of folded out for the moment, just so that I don't mistakenly do something to them. So you can kind of see how everything is going to fit in here now. And I thought that I had recorded this part where I sewed in the signatures, but I did not. So I will link my list of journals that I have done before. Basically what I did is created a template for the spine. I punched the holes, and then I punched the holes in each of the signatures, and then I bound them in using a 3-hole pamphlet stitch with some waxed linen thread. So this is pretty typical for how I create these kind of journals. It's just an easy way to do that. I would recommend, whenever you are creating a journal that has more than one signature, create a template. It just makes it easier to line up your spaces, and so that your finished signatures on the outside are even. If you're going to cover that up with something, then it doesn't really matter. You could certainly add fabric or something around the spine to cover that up if you're not concerned about that. But again, I'm keeping the integrity of this journal or the book as much as possible. So I just sewed those signatures in using a template that I created. So what you've been seeing me do here is obviously doesn't really need a whole lot of explanation. I am using the leftover pieces of the backdrop papers to create pockets. I am adding some little tuck spots and different things using some of the ephemera pieces from Tim Holtz. Now, some of these pieces they're bigger pieces, but because this journal is the size, it just ends up working out perfect for little tuck spots and different things. So you'll kind of see me, this is one of the biggest pieces actually in that ephemera set. And so I just turned it into a coffee dyed journaling card. I added some coffee dyed paper on the back of it, and it's going to be a journaling card. I'm going to create a little pocket for it here. I'm using I think this is 2¼ inch punch here, just barely on the edge, just to create a little thumb notch, distressing everything. And then I'm going to glue down this pocket here to hold this little journaling card. I will go into more kind of decorating of all of this later. And there is a part 2 coming as well. I was not able to do everything in this one particular video. So I did here and there add some pieces of ephemera. I really loved this kind of holly here. And so I put that on there as I'm going. But for the most part right now, I'm really just working on making sure that I have pockets. I took some of that paper from the paper pad. This was the one from Hobby Lobby, the Paper Studio, and I created my own little pockets and tuck spots out of some of that paper. Some of them are, I just took a corner and I cut it in half diagonally for some of those corner pockets. This one, I cut a square and then I just made an angle cut on it. Just whatever looked good. I didn't measure anything specifically. And that will create this little tuck here. And I just did that consistently throughout the journal. So you'll see, here's another one of those little corner tuck spots. And I just felt like these papers worked really well with that. This is another one of those ephemera pieces that I'm going to use. I like to do this kind of, especially on those really textured pages where I know you're not going to be able to write on that paper. So having a tuck spot in there allows you to still be able to use that page. You can just tuck something in there, a tag or whatever, and that way you can still use it. Other pages you can obviously write on, like the coffee dyed ones, but so I'm just adding, again, trying to balance the colors and everything, adding tuck spots down in the bottom corners that are going to house all of the little tags and other things, that journaling cards that we're going to be cutting. I did cut some more of this paper. I'm trying to use up the scraps that I did have to create pockets in here. And I did try to make sure that each of the signatures has the same amount of pockets or tuck spots in it. So, and then there was this beautiful page from the backdrop set, and I just loved it. So this kind of, Christmas candy. And so I just loved all the colors and everything of it. So I cut it down and just used it as belly bands on a few of these pages. And I really loved this one that has the actual branding on it. Obviously, as a whole piece, this was too big. And I was going to use it in my signature actually, but because the backside had a black and white picture of like a kid's school picture or something, you can kind of see them there. But the problem with it was that they were upside down. So I couldn't use it as a signature because if either one way or the other, the paper would have been upside down. So I decided to use it this way, and I'm just trimming it down and creating belly bands out of it. And I think it just adds a lot of just fun color in there as well. And then this one, I'm just distressing a little bit more just because this is a little bit more white in it than some of the other pages. But I am using my art glitter glue. I get asked about this glue a lot. I use it a lot. I also use Barely Arts glue. They are just good PVA glues. The thing with art glitter glue is that it dries pretty quickly. So it's good for a project like this where I'm kind of flipping back and forth and I want things to dry pretty quickly. I tend to use liquid glues whenever I'm creating pockets especially, or tuck spots, because I want that glue to dry. If you use a tape runner or even like a score tape or something like that, that adhesive technically like never actually dries. So you can stick your something like down into it, and if it gets down into that adhesive, it's going to stick to it. So I just like to use glitter or art glitter glue or Barely Arts glue, something like that, so to make sure that everything's going to be dry and nothing is going to get stuck in my pages. You can see here I created some of these kind of corner pockets. These are actually a little bit bigger than the others. They run basically the full size of the page. And I did that just to add a little bit of color. This is again from that same paper pack that I had that just kind of coordinated. And that kind of does everything for me for now. There will be a part 2. If you liked this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye.